Oh, Jesus, babe. Praise Jesus. I think it actually went live. Did we go live? Let me check my phone.
No, you found a wiggle wood.
Wait, it says we're live. But my phone is not saying we're live. It is? It's not showing. Oh, thank. All right, let me hear the. Check the audio. Testing 1, 2, 3. Audio sounds good. Hey, Doc, try your mic real quick. Make sure it's on.
Yeah, can you hear me? Testing 1, 2, 3.
Hey, Doc, try your mic real quick.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Make sure it's on.
Testing.
It's not bad. Perfect. All right. Alrighty. Let us do our intro then. Why did you launch him 80 feet in the air?
You told me to boat flip him!
I didn't tell you to launch him 78
I
feet
flipped
in the
him
air.
in the boat, didn't I?
Send it to the moon.
I sent it! You said boat flip him!
Oh, yeah.
Do you fish? No. You know, people who don't fish think that fishing is lazy or boring, but it is the complete opposite. There are 100 little decisions to be made, variables to be considered, and you're never quite sure what made the difference. Did I cast too high, too far to the left? Did I reel it in too slow or too fast? Is the lure too shiny or too dull? Do I stay here or should I go over there? And you know it's not luck, but you do not know by how much. Because I am never disappointed out here. Because I don't expect anything. Because anything is possible. I can be hopeful out here, even in failure. Because I know if I just go out there around that tree, it might be different. Something might be different. Something I do might make a difference.
On my property, you didn't win in my yard.
Wait.
All of you.
Daddy, chill.
What the hell is even that?
You're listening to Fishing the DMV with your host, Thomas Ahrens. Fishing the DMV is brought to you by Jake's Bait and Tackle, located in Winchester, Virginia.
If that doesn't get you jacked up, I don't know what will.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome here to a special Thursday night from Jake's Bait and Tackle Live. Before I start really yapping my gums and introducing everybody, we get an audio check from everybody at home right now. We got about 20 people watching, I think. I cannot see really that number right there. I'm basically blind. But we are really going to have a fantastic show with some really, really good guests. Just give me nice to see Doc is back. Yeah, just anyone in the comment section, just let us know how the audio is before we get started here, if I have to make any adjustments. If it's a little low, I'm sorry, we'll have to deal with that. But as long as you can understand the wordage, that's fine, because this thing will be re-uploaded where I have more control over like polishing up the audio. We got Brian Peeler says, sounds good on Facebook. Good. We get somebody from YouTube. I know we got a bunch of people watching from the old YouTube right now. How's that looking? We got about 3 people there. It's all good. Okay, well, Facebook. Oh, that's good enough, I guess. Facebook's working, then that's fine here. All right, we are here. My wife just said on YouTube, you're clear. That is awesome. Praise Jesus. So, I know there's 2 massive kayak tournaments going on. When we planned this 6 months ago, we did not think that through about doing this the eve of a major tournament. So, this will be some good content, definitely. And you guys don't want to hear me yap at all, but let's get on to these guys here. With it's first, the man, the myth, the legend. They just call him the Doc.
Good evening, everyone. I'm glad the audience is tuning in here. I think we're going to have a fantastic show. I'm glad that we're back here at Jake's tonight. Fishing the DMV is back at Jake's for what I feel is going to be a great show. We'll be talking about crankbaits tonight. I'm by no means a crankbait expert, but we have 2 gentlemen here with us as guests who are what I would consider experts at crankbait fishing. I just want to basically just tell you that from a standpoint of fishing crankbaits, it can be very complex or it can be very simple. In reference to the complexity of it, you know, at this time of year, you're looking at baits that, you know, depending on where you're fishing, whether you're in a Highland Reservoir, Tennessee River ledge fishing or whatever, you may be throwing large baits, baits that are diving 20 feet maybe, or 16 to 20 feet. Big baits, taking big heavy rods to throw. For example, this here Azuma.
That's his Shenandoah special.
Yeah, it's a Shenandoah special. Azuma Z-Boss 25 there. That'd be something that you'd be throwing on the ledges and stuff like that in the big rivers. Or 10XD, which would also be running down 18 or so foot. So, and then you go, those would be considered your large deep bait divers. Then you would go into a category of just plain deep divers, which would be something like your 6XD from Strike King or some of these other Rapala DT16s, etc. And then you go into your medium diving baits, which is a whole armamentarium of those, and then all the way down to your shallow, deep running baits, into your lipless baits, into your BFS baits, and so it just goes on and on. And but I think so that shows you how complex this could be. If you really look at the simplicity of it, you could probably take 2 of these baits and fish, and that would be something with maybe one deep diving bait like a XD, a 6XD and a
I would like to answer this question because I love this.
square bill.
We got Everett here. What's everyone's favorite crankbait? I bet you get to the movie and you ask immediately, how is it going to end? We will promise we'll get to that.
Yeah. So with that said, I'd like to introduce the guys that are actually experts at fishing these baits, and that is the Jeff Wolford and Jeff Miller, both who have just come off great fishing trips up north fishing crankbaits and with great catches. So I'll turn it over to them, and once again, thank everyone for chiming in tonight.
All right, you go first.
Hey, I'm Jeff Miller, and I love throwing crankbaits. I mean, you take I'm starting late winter, 40 degrees is about when I start throwing them, and you can start, with as long as you throwing something that's 6 to 8 foot and maybe even 10 foot, but they're just, like I say, you can cover a lot of water with them, and if the fish are, if they're really active, they'll really jump on the crankbait. I mean, it's just something that you got to have a lot of confidence. We've probably said that before, any of us. If you don't have confidence in what you're throwing, there's no sense even throwing it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's what, pretty much the way I look at it. So.
Yeah, for crankbaits, I'll start throwing a crankbait. That water temperature hits 37, 38 degrees, which is, you said 40. I'll start a little bit lower than that. And everybody knows I'm a light tackle guy for the most part. I'll start throwing a crankbait, like say 37, 38 degree water temperature, on local waters. And a lot of times I'm throwing that crankbait on 6-pound line. So my kind of motto on that in that cold water, I like to get it down and then slow it down. Because, you're in 38 degree water, they're not as apt to, be chasing as abruptly as, you would up there at 45, 50 degree water. My biggest smallmouth to date on the Shenandoah came on a cold February day. Water temperature was 38 degrees. Doc was with me. Doc actually netted the fish, and Jeff actually weighed the fish. That day, I had one bite all day, and it was, I think, 6'5" smallmouth on a crankbait, on 6-pound line.
Mm.
And I'll take that one good bite over 20 small bites any given day. As far as some of the crankbaits that I throw on local waters, it really depends on whether I think they're on a crawfish bite or whether they're on a bait fish bite.
Well, and before we give away the whole big meat of today, and then we'll definitely be showing that picture off about crankbaits. One thing that actually comes up a lot is about this stupid thing here. And I actually had a conversation with Jake Harshman and Jeff Little the other day about like how it feels like everybody's throwing this chatterbait now. And with that said, do you feel like this has replaced a lot of the uses for crankbaits? And that's a good thing for a crankbait angler because there's not as many people throwing crankbaits because of this stupid thing. What is everyone's thoughts?
My personal opinion, I think that has replaced spinnerbait bite.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
For a lot of folks.
Yeah, because of flash.
Yeah, and for me, it's a smaller, tighter profile bait as opposed to the spinnerbait. I know Doc has a lot of confidence.
Yeah, I love throwing the bladed
Jackhammer.
jig bait. However, I think people that really know how to use a crankbait and are really good at it, I don't think it ever goes away. I mean, as Jeff will tell you there, it's amazing. You get someone that really loves fishing a crankbait, and you can get right in there beside them, and it's amazing how they they'll sit there and catch 3 or 4 fish to your one. And it's just I think the big thing we talked about earlier is you got to have the confidence in using that bait. And I love throwing a crankbait. I just something I got to put more time doing as far as getting that confidence built up. Whereas like the jackhammers and things like that, I love throwing them. I got confidence in it pretty much anytime, year round.
Yep.
So I don't mind, I can throw it anytime. But no, I don't think that it necessarily replaces the crankbait. But I think it's just another one of your
Another tool, yeah.
another tool that'll put fish in the boat for sure.
Yeah, I feel like in the tournament world, it's just weird because you just see like the crankbait not get the same spotlight with BSS and certain tournament organizations, and this and swim baits and spinner baits really have taken the limelight, which is a shame because I'm a crankbait addict. Everyone knows that. I've thrown this 3 times my whole life. That's about it. And I have about $100 worth of them that I never use. But these things absolutely get worn out. This is from 2 days ago in the Shenandoah. This one's scuffed up. I got one that I was fishing today, preparing for. This one has just gone to hell and back. I mean, absolutely the paint worn off of it. I love throwing crankbaits. This is going to be a really good conversation. Jared, what do you think about crankbaits? Thank you, Jared.
Yeah. Well, Thomas, I think one of the things that makes it difficult, especially in someone just getting started, is, like I said, I guess you could make this simple and say I'm going to carry 2 or 3 different type crankbaits, but the complexity, to me the complexity is there's so many different kinds. I mean, what do you use do you use a bait that's got a square bill? Do you use a rounded bill? What size do you use? What color you choose to use? I mean, of course, I know a lot of that's dependent on where you're fishing, but for someone that really does not do a lot of crankbait fishing, I mean, you walk in the tackle store here, and you can kind of go, where do you start? Right. Where do you start with this? And that's kind of why I laid all these out here, saying, depending on where you're fishing lake or you fishing the river or wherever, so I think that kind of intimidates a lot of folks and that really does not fish crankbaits a lot. I mean, I'm somewhat intimidated. I mean, I look at it and I say, boy, that's pretty. Looks good. I'm the fish. I'm the one that bites, so I buy the lure.
And it's hard because of where we live too, because I mean, you just pulled out a thing that looks like a 50 cal, and it's like, what lakes around here? Now, you travel the country to places that specifically, like, those bigger, 20-plus divers are very needed. Yeah. Like, I kid, like, there's just the Shenandoah River that's a little bit of an overkill, the tidal Potomac. Like, I have 3 boxes of square bills because most of the places around here, this is fine. But then again, if you're in a part of a country, maybe that's all you use and you barely use a square bill. So yeah, it is very specific to the waterways that you got to make sure everything is kind of fine tuned.
Well, I think if you really had to just look at it, I think probably the square bill is the most, is the one that's proven time and time again. I mean, it's a bait that you can really throw into cover. It's a bait that, especially around this area, I mean, you can use the bait. It's you can throw it into the cover. It works. I mean, y'all are proof of that.
Mm-hmm. And then, as always, guys, in the comment section, best question of the night will win gift cards to all these lovely sponsors. You'll get one to Jake's Bait and Tackle. Again, best questions will get it. And then we'll have a bonus one. The best question of the night will win a bonus prize. Jenny didn't sign off on this, but she'll be happy anyway. You'll win a $15 gift card if it's the best question of the night. And we'll have the panel has to decide at the end what that best question would be. So let's get some good dialogue going, because this is a really, really cool treat with these guys here. I mean, how do you want to start? Do you want to start with just going this way and just do lakes first and then come back to talking about like smallmouth rivers kind of deal? Like, how do we want to like break this down? Who's fished a lake first recently?
Well, I can just give you some of my experience, which is not a whole lot, but I can tell you fishing like Tennessee River, I'm from Tennessee originally, and fishing down some of the lake chains on the Tennessee River, Pickwick, some of those places where ledge fishing is big. Like I said, those large baits going into the summertime of year, those are part of your arsenal. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, you moving out. And these other baits work too. But I'm just talking about if you're trying to get on a 20 foot down on a ledge at fish you're seeing down there, sometimes you have to use the big baits. But Now I think if you move from there, like I said, you go into the medium divers, which depending on the depth of water, you're fishing. You're trying to get down 10, 12 foot. You have to kind of you've got bait. You can choose from there. Now I think you decide. Are you using a bait that's got a larger bill, that more rounded bill that it's got more action versus something that's a little more subtle. You just have to make that decision based on time of year. For example, you're fishing in the winter, you might choose something here like the River to Seas. It's basically a crank. It's a crank. This one here happens to be a crank 75. This is an outstanding. This is actually an outstanding crankbait to use in the winter because it's got a very subtle action, but it gets deep, and so you might choose something like that to use.
How do you pick the one that you want to throw first? And then, you know what? Let me ask my second question first. First question: what is your setup to throw that spade? That thing is. Could you bring that one up to the camera again? And yeah, show the little one too, like for like both of them.
Show this one right here. This.
Yeah, that would be better. Like
this is like a 3XD and a 10XD.
Between largemouth and smallmouth. I mean,
yeah,
that's big one, and then pull them both up together just to kind of show like that's it's massive. That's got to work you out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's like throwing an umbrella rig. I mean, it's going to wear you out.
Yep.
But you're going to use something like, well, I think particularly the rod I'm using that it's an X-Pride. It's a heavy. It's a 7.6. With a large spool luge reel and 17-pound test line. I mean that's what. So like I said, that's and it's a workout. And that's not something you're not going to use this. It's not something you're going to use every. It's going to be kind of fish specific.
Yeah, and I think that's really what chimed into what David Frist did with having that really, really noodle of a rod and that really slow gear ratio, is because when you're dealing with a bait that size, you want that thing to be able to load. Otherwise, you're just getting worked out. If you used a flipping stick with that shovel, like it would just completely wear you out the whole time. And so, but I think that's interesting with that mindset, because again, I've said this on my show way too many times about like how if you just read bass, you would think that's what you're supposed to do all the time, whether it's shad or crankbait, you need to pull noodle of a rod. But with some of my setups there, that's not always the case. I'd use a little bit heavier rod depending. That's not the standard because of certain situations. But I never use this heavier stuff on a 30XD because you would just be sweating buckets doing it for sure. Color-wise, what are you going to use at that depth, generally speaking? Do you keep it super simple, or do you get kind of complicated with it?
No, I mean I think basically try to keep it simple. I mean you're gonna have I use a couple of different colors. I'll use the blue back with the chartreuse, and then something depending on the water clarity. If the water happens to be clear where you're fishing, you might use a more natural type bait. If the water's dirty, you might go with the blue chartreuse.
Something like a sexy shad.
Yeah, sexy shad. Yeah, and try to match the hatch type deal. But basically, that's very limited fishing. Day in and day out, if I'm using crankbait, I'm using some of these smaller baits. I'm using, it depends on what depth I'm wanting to go. If I'm wanting to go, 8 or 9 foot, I'll be using maybe something like a Spro 50 or 55. Which like when we go north, I know that's a big bait right there. When we use crankbaits up north, that seems to be an excellent bait.
And we got let's see, we got a ton of questions. I want to make sure we're going to get to a couple of these questions right now because it's kind of topical to the thing that we're talking about right now. Let's go with Scott Bowers. Dinner played on the front of that 10XD 100%, dude. Let's see. Oh, here's a good one from Scott again. Who still prefers balsa baits? Does anyone use balsa baits still? I don't.
I think balsa baits are good, but I think now with the plastics as good as they are, that you're probably, you don't really have to use the balsa. I tell you what, if you really want to get into balsa baits, you go to Knoxville, Tennessee. They have a show down there once a year, and it's nothing but local homemade balsas, and it's a show to see. And they'll have some of the locals there. That's a big area for fishing. Jeff, down Deadeye.
Yeah.
That's a big area for fishing balsa baits. A lot of people there make them.
Yep.
And this is a Bagley Killer Bee. I don't think they make this one anymore, but that's a balsa. And the one nice thing about the balsa for people that are not balsa is we're going to be committing. Okay, there we go. We got it. Never flinches. It's just the wobble on it is really, really awesome. It's not as tight. That's the biggest thing. And I think it's also the vibration and the sound of that thing is a little bit different than plastic. And I wonder how much more that plays nowadays when everyone's throwing plastic, is if it's just because the sound is so different and unique. And is your finger okay? Let's see.
Well, too, I think, Thomas, it brings up a good point about your sound. I mean, there's times when, do you really want a lot of sound or do you want silence? I mean, if you're casting, if the fish, if you're in clear water or something and you're casting well beyond the fish and trying to bring back through there, they're hearing this noise all the way across, they may just ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you're bringing something silent through there and then suddenly it appears in front of them, boom.
You get that
They're
reaction.
on it.
Get
Yeah,
that
It's a
reaction.
reaction.
They're
bait.
on it. So I think I think that brings up a good point as to, if you're in muddy water or something like that, or more dingy water, and you just gotta let the fish tell you what they want.
And I think
the-
when they're on the crayfish too, the clicking. I mean,
Yeah.
with the crawfish, when they back up, they're doing a little clicking sound,
right.
and to me that it's.
And then you get the time of year. Do you really want a lot of wobble? A lot of action, or do you want more subtle action? Obviously, going into like the winter or the cooler months, you might use flat side, and you want less action. Whereas when things are wide open, you get a wiggle wart. A wiggle wart. That thing probably has the best action or most action of anything. Is a wiggle wart.
You wonder, is it just because like baits catch fishermen, not the fish? Where somebody wins a big tournament, and then all of a sudden we get like slim-sided crankbaits for the next 4 years. You see this with like the glide baits too, and the mega bass, the mag draft, where somebody wins on that, and then all of a sudden that's all we're getting for the next 2 years.
Yep.
Because I heard of those, but until like Ott Defoe and whoever that other guy was did well, and then every company came out with one, I rarely saw them. I knew of them, but they weren't as prolific as they are now. Fascinating. Interesting stuff. So we do have a couple of, let's see, we've got a couple questions here. I want to make sure we keep going here. Scroll right here. Oh, wrong way. There we go. Cool. Oh my goodness, we're gonna be here for a while. We got Bass and Beer Radio. Hey fellas, hey boss, how you doing? Hope. And we got Katie here. Katie, you just won a gift card to Jake's Bait and Tackle. Jared, what does that say?
Do you all prefer water that is hard fishing but produces large fish, or easier fishing water with more average fish, and why?
Who wants to go first?
Oh, it's Katie. Hey, Katie. Me personally, I'll take the hard fishing water that's going to produce better quality fish, but a good chance less of those. Yeah, I'll take that slow, great bite over a lot of bites and this medium size, fish, this 12, 13-inch fish, as opposed to 2-pound, 3-pound fish or up.
Oh, we have so many questions. We're going to get through. We're probably going to have just an hour of Q&A, so we're going to wait on that. That was a bad mistake. I think we're going to integrate that. Let's just keep going here, and we'll get back to the comment section. Jeff, what are your favorite baits? What do you got there?
Some of my favorite baits, and this is primarily for local waters. Cotton Cordell. This particular.
That's a cool one. Now, is that plastic or balsa?
That's plastic.
Plastic. Yeah.
You guys.
I find that to be a really good bait on pretty much all the local rivers.
So Katie also wants to know, hi, I live in Montana. Can we pawn the gift card off someone else? Well, funny you mentioned that. Jake's Bait and Tackle does offer online and delivery. Jenny will also autograph and sign anything you get as well. But if you would like it, there you go. So Katie, if you still want it, you can get some apparel here, some Jakes. We like to keep Jakes all over the corners of the earth. We got, thanks, Jeff, miss fishing with you. What is Montana fishing like? Have y'all been out to Montana? Is it trout fishing or is there bass in Montana too? I think there is bass.
She does a lot of trout fishing too.
It's probably a beautiful country, honestly.
My experience there has been trout. when I've been out there. Fishing.
So as I derail us, anyway, back to the crankbaits.
And then Bandit, Bandit 200 series.
Bandits.
One of my go-to colors by far is the root beer. You can get this with the white belly, or you can get it with a chartreuse belly, either or, depending on the water clarity. And fish will tell you which one they want. And also, I like throwing. I've got pretty good faith in some of these. They're more like a custom colors, custom paint jobs by a variety of local people. Some not real local, but they definitely. You can give them a pattern. I'm gonna throw those, might stick you again. You can give them a pattern and get in contact with them and have them hopefully duplicate. You can see that's a good color.
That's a
there.
really
That's a
cool
money.
color.
Money right there.
Yep.
It's hard with some of these local painters because it's like it's almost art. You don't
Oh,
want to
yeah,
eat
it's-
that into a dock after they spent 3 days painting it.
And that bad boy right there, up anywhere up north, yeah, that's got money right.
Is that a
all
wiggle wart
over.
or a rock crawler?
That's a custom.
That's a custom.
Yeah, that's a
It
custom.
looks almost like an old school storm wiggle wart with the eyes.
Yep.
That is crazy.
And then of course some of your Spro, your 50s, 55, depending on the depth of the water. Spro, I mean, and they're priced pretty. They're hard to beat. They really are.
Yep.
They quite a variety of colors and patterns, and they seem to run pretty true.
What's your
Yeah.
setup for crankbait fishing?
If I'm throwing a spinning rod, I'm usually throwing 6-pound line, believe it or not. A bait caster, I'm throwing 10.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
insane.
Now, Jeff, he's bait caster 1,000%. I'll throw it on a bait caster also. If I'm fishing a riverbank where I'm getting a lot of overhanging branches and I'm looking for shade pockets, like, as the
Yeah.
water temperature starts warming up, then I'm going to take that ducket spinning rod with 6-pound line, and that crankbait's going right back under them limbs, Or if the wind's blowing hard and I'm trying to present a light crankbait, it's going on a spinning rod.
Yeah, and I've mentioned that on the show too, because like my Tidal Potomac setup is a spinning rod, but for the grass and stuff, I know that was a question that we'll get to it, but I throw straight braid on a spinning rod because you're never going to bird's nest. You can cast into the wind so good compared to a bait caster, but people don't do it. It's really weird.
Yeah, I'm one of them. I mean, I do. I throw 10-pound test on a bait caster, probably no less than a 7-foot rod, and I've up to 7'11".
Wow, really?
Yeah. I mean, the 7'11", it's a casting rod, and then it's just I can get the distance on it. Getting back to square bills, or just say at 40-degree water. I like that 7'11" because I can, put a lot of distance. I mean, yeah, it makes it tough in the wind, but you kind of got to get the wind behind you. Maybe sometimes face your boat a different direction or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'll get it down, especially when the water's cold. You got to get it down to bottom, and then I'll just slow it down. Barely ticking the rod, and you want that thing just kind of ticking the bottom. And sometimes you'll feel them hit it, but most time you'll just feel a rod load up, and they've already hooked themselves. I mean, they pretty much done come up there and they've just locked down on it, and you just steady cranking, and your rod will just, like I said, load up, and
It'll load.
it's most time it's a good smallmouth. It's no doubt about it.
What are you casting? This is a question to everyone. When you're fishing river smallmouth, are you casting up current? Are you casting perpendicular? Like, what angles do you usually use?
I mostly cast upriver and bring it down because I think the fish are always facing the current, and when it comes,
It's a natural.
It's
more of a natural
presentation. Exactly. They're just laying there, and a lot of times when the water's dirty, when they don't get a chance to look at it when the water's clear. When the water's clear, they get too much of a chance to look at it. Yeah. But when it's dirty, they just see that little bit of flash, and and it's a bigger bait. Yeah, I mean, they.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're out here on the lake, say out Lake Holiday or Lake Frederick, it really don't matter. I mean, you up or down, I mean, front or back, and you're just getting a different angle. As you cover the water, it's not that big of a deal. But I think in the river it is.
Sometimes, like on lakes especially, if you know there's some fish there, if you're live scoping them or whatever, just a different angle from your presentation. You can throw from one angle and not get bit, and spin the boat around and bring it in from a different angle, whether it's a drop off or whatever it is, a rock pile, and get bit 2 out of 3 casts. And then going back to what Jeff was saying, throwing like a 7-11 rod, what I find myself doing, if I'm throwing like a 6-8, like one of the ducket rods, I'll catch myself to get that extra 2 feet. If I'm not maintaining bottom contact, that rod tip's going in the water.
Yeah, almost down to the reel.
It's definitely going down into the water till I can get down to that extra 2 feet, 3 feet that I need, for that crankbait to tick off the bottom.
Because and that's something I'm so glad we're able to like go through everybody's setup here, is because like I want to get into mine, because I fished from a boat pretty much until like last year when I started to fish a little bit more kayak tournaments, and I realized you have to adjust your setups to where you are, because my number one crankbait setup always was, it was a Zillion Daiwa reel. It was a 4.9. I'd throw 12-pound fluorocarbon on a 712 Kevin Van Dam cranking stick. This thing, you could just launch a crankbait, and if it's those longer bills, like you're working lakes, it doesn't work you hard, you could count rocks. It really would load up good, and that's what I really used a lot for my crankbait situations on lakes, and I would adjust the reel if I want a little bit more speed and a little bit more control of that. But then what I found out with that super limber setup is when you go to a kayak and you load up on them, I was missing fish all the time. I didn't know what the hell was going on. In a kayak, you can't take a step back. You can't lock. You're basically here.
Yeah.
And I realized real quick that I had to take and create a separate setup for my kayaking, which was a lot heavier and a lot more no stretch and a faster rod or a faster reel setup, because I had to make up that line with just my hand. I can't take a step back. I can't lean. And probably the kayak's going forward, depending on how big the fish is. And so I really realized the importance of adjusting setups. And so what I brought today was not my lake stuff, but this is my kayak bait caster here. This is a 7. This is 14-pound fluorocarbon. And this is a medium graphite rod versus a more of a glass rod I'd use on a lake. But because I can wind a little bit harder, and when I get one, I can catch up to them. And that actually fixed my missed fish thing. The other thing I have, which it's in the truck, is I have a spinning rod with 12-pound straight braid. I don't think they can see it when you're burning it over their head, especially there's a question about grass. They can't see it. And when you make that long cast in a yak, or if you make a super long cast in a boat, I think the longer your cast is, the higher probability you have of catching a fish, because they don't know you're there. Well, that means as soon as that thing hits the water, you need to be able to get those trebs into them. And if you have a noodle rod that just bends over, it's harder to get that treb in them. And if they jump, that's when you're probably going to miss them. So I like to go straight braid, and I just really crank down that reel, and I don't miss them a lot. The next thing I want to talk to you all about is, this is something I'm religious about, is hooks. I really fell in love with triple grips. You don't fish that slash at it, you don't always get, but as long as they get at least one hook in them, you pretty much got them. They do not throw them as much. And these are a little bit sturdier to where you can actually haul on them and they won't break out. I want everyone's opinion. Do you think treble hooks matter? And if they do you like round bends, or do you like these like triple grip styles? What are your thoughts?
I probably don't change the hooks out as much as a lot of people do. I pretty much, a lot of times, just basically go standard, but I probably use the round bends more so than any other. I don't know that I can tell you exactly why, but I don't know, it just seems to.
Works good?
Yeah, right. For me.
Yeah, I'm pretty much, I just generally stick with the round.
Why?
Yeah. The only hooks that I will change out are my top water baits. Pop R's, things like that. I like the, I believe they're called the True Turn, or you got the Twist.
Yeah. Those are really cool.
Yeah, I really like those on my top water baits. That's really the only thing I will change out.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same way.
Yeah,
and the main
where's
thi-
that one crank? There's hooks on it.
These here?
Yeah.
That one? That thing's wore out.
Yeah.
That's a Shenandoah River wore out one right there.
That thing's cool.
That thing's caught a lot of fish.
And it's amazing how the
See,
fish can
it's,
throw a freaking crankbait. You got six, you got 6 trebles down there, and you can always tell if the fish are really wanting a crankbait is when they, especially up north. I mean, and even on the Shenandoah sometimes they will engulf that thing. And I mean, it's down, and I hate that when it's down in their throat. It just,
Yeah.
I'd rather miss the fish than have him suck it down in his throat, because I mean, you got to do a little surgical to get them out.
I'm glad you said that. A friend of mine turned me on this. I use this in my boat too. If you're going with smallmouth and you're doing trebs, I highly suggest getting something like this, especially when they get hooked deep, so you can get some separation between your hand and those fish's mouth. Because on a largemouth, I don't care how small or big, they don't care. They're like little Great Danes, they just lay in your lap. A smallmouth will figure out a way to kill you. And put this into your hand.
Yep, them little 11, 12, 13
oh my
inches,
God.
there's no, they're just,
Get ones like that.
yeah,
Oh my goodness.
they're eating when they're like
That's
that.
when
They
you know they're
chew.
eating.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you just be careful with them when you're fishing that. And then I think I already went through mine. Bandit, I don't know what color this is. It's just, I guess, the yellow crawdad. This on the Tidal Potomac is absolute money. I've won a lot of money on that. That's the bait that I finished top 10 with. This is literally, I think, your same bait by Bandit, but it's just a square
that right there
version.
is I'm
Root beer.
telling you.
It's a
Even on the
go-to.
Susquehanna, that's a killer bait on the Susquehanna.
It's absolute money. Again, it's that chartreuse or something.
Yep.
And this is the thing too. I don't see a lot of people throwing chartreuse crankbaits anymore, but they work really good. And then Strike King quit making a lot of their baits for some reason. I don't know what color this is, but it's stopped being made. It's almost like a, I don't know, a brown crayfish, I think. I don't know. But that's a really cool color if you can find it on eBay.
Yeah, that chartreuse black back is.
Oh, dude.
I mean, that's money on the, a lot of times.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, I bought so many of these when they went out.
Let me see that one. That looks like a. It's almost like the brown crawl from Strike King. It's just maybe the brown crawl is just a little bit darker. Almost got the same color.
And you know, now they've got a lot of the BFS baits. This here's the Gaffin from Mega Bass. That's a neat little finesse bait that, you know, a lot of times when nothing else is working, that's a neat little rig there. Kind of goes along with the Shimano Macbeth series. These are, like I said, a lot of times these are, I guess you'd consider them BFS type baits, but they were great, man. Spinning
Scott
rod.
Bowers, fish need a tetanus shot after getting that hook. Yeah, I agree with that. All right, so now we're going to be getting into, we got so many questions. We probably should get into some of these. We got SSRR. Can we get away from the tournament fishing thing? It seems like all I hear about here anymore is BS about what some tournament boy is doing. We need some more of the rest of us. Well, that's why this show is here, because we're trying to balance it out a lot more to make sure everyone has something that they can actually enjoy. We got Chris Sherwood, who's playing. Who's playing Vanna White? Love that you can get a close up for the crankbaits. Yeah, just huge shout out to Jared's hand for doing that for us. We got this. We got the double stamp Baby One. Yeah, Baby One minus. I did not bring my Tidal Potomac box, but yeah, Baby Ones are definitely a thing. Ooh, here we go. Here's a great one. All right, Ray, you just won a gift card to Jake's Bait and Tackle. Which part/section on each of these rivers has the best chance of a 7-pound plus smallie? On number 1, the Shenandoah, 2, Potomac, 3, Susquehanna. All guest opinions, please.
I'm going to say the Shenandoah. Hands down. I mean,
Well,
Which section on the Shenandoah?
I'm going to say the South Fork of the Shenandoah.
Yep.
We got 2 for that. Okay.
well, I know my biggest fish from the Shenandoah has been out of South Fork.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 512, but that's the biggest one I've caught in the Shenandoah, but it was out of the South Fork.
Yeah, I caught one back in February of this year, February 15th. Me and Floyd Wharton was fishing. I caught a 6'8".
Wow.
You know,
It's a hell of a fish.
but I caught that on tube. But it's
I'm going to say, so if I get this question, if I understand this question, so for all three parts, I think the Susquehanna Reservoir, we just had the Bass and Beer guys. If you're on, please give me the name of that reservoir on the Susquehanna River. Please. Yeah, it's near the dam, Conowingo, Lake Conowingo. I think Lake Conowingo has a monster in it that people can't catch, just because of the way that thing is shaped and everything, and no one fishes it. So I think there's a 7-pounder in Conowingo.
yeah. I mean, when I'm fishing the Susquehanna, I'm above Harrisburg. From there up to
I don't know.
Liverpool.
Is there a 7-pounder in that section, you think? Because Susky's got a lot of 5s.
There's a lot of 5s. Occasionally you'll get a 6, but I've caught my bigger fish on the Shenandoah. I have. I mean,
Absolutely.
You know.
And then I'll give you my last two parts. So Shenandoah, I think it'll be the West Virginia portion of the Shenandoah River, just because no one fishes it. Like, very few people float or fish that area, I think, in my opinion, because there's not a lot of boat ramps and there's a license issue, because there's also not a lot of guides that do that part because of the license issue. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a 7-pounder in there. But the place I think that does have a 7-pounder in it right now is Upper Potomac. Hands down, they've been doing a stocking program the last 5 years from Harper's Ferry down. I think there has been a 6 caught out of there last year. So that's one good meal, no, 2 good meals.
Yeah.
So
I mean, even around Brunswick area, I mean, there's so many 5+. I'm talking high 5s. And, you know, just
It's a matter of time.
a matter of
It's
time.
a matter of time.
Yeah. And it could be well past a 7-pounder, you know. But
if you don't get into a fish kill section,
yeah, fingers crossed
know,
there.
right.
just let them keep growing.
So I think we got that one good. That's a really good question, Ryan. Let's see. Let's keep scrolling down. Oh, wrong way. Katie. Okay. Oh, wait. What did Katie say? Hey, hi, Montana. Okay, got that one. Online shopping. Thanks, Chris. Oh, yeah. All right, here we go. What does this one say? Jenny needs to autograph. I will hold on to it. Buy some hats. There we go. Love to hear that. Okay. Ooh, here we go. Scott, you just won a gift card to Jake's Bait and Tackle. What crankbaits are you throwing in grass?
-1. A -1. Yeah.
Depends on how much water's over the
Right.
grass.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Right, here you go. You know, of course, it's a lipless, but
There's no way I have lipless in
you
here.
know,
Yeah.
I
Oh
think
my God, I have a lipless. Why do I have a lipless?
obviously
crankbait?
I love fishing lipless crankbait and grass, and you know, you don't think about fishing the lipless crankbait and wood. I'll show you a little trick that I found. I didn't come up with this, but it definitely works. This is taking your lipless crankbait. You want to really, you know, they really hang up in the wood. So if you'll take the back hook off and put some bling on there and upsize your front hook, that's a good rig that you can throw and cover a lot better than if you leave, you know, with 2 trebles on it. So obviously it'll still hang up, but it's not near as bad as. So that's kind of a little trick there, or a little change, a little customization that works good.
And Scott, let me get a little bit more inception on that there. It's not necessarily a crankbait, but I think it's your setup. If you are going to be fishing grass, I highly recommend going straight braid. Like I said, I have a multitude of crankbait setups. I will also throw braid on a 6 gear ratio bait caster on a medium heavy rod, just because depending, I'm talking submerged vegetation, it comes up to 2 feet, because that way you can really pop it out. You need a good snap and you're not dragging it. When you're doing fluorocarbon, that limp noodle rod that you're fishing brush piles with, and you pull, it's not gonna have that crisp pop. I really believe with these or lipless or whatever, if this is the stalk and that thing hits, you want it to pop free and still be as close to that stalk as possible. You don't want it to be 1.5 feet over from it, or what's worse is you pull and you just gloop the whole thing over. That's going to really spook the bass. I really think it's that shock of it hitting and it pops free. And and it's right there. So whatever setup you use, you need it, I think, to be as sensitive as possible. So as soon as you feel the grass, you can start popping. If you have it to where it's dull and it buries in there too much and then you pop, it's not going to be as effective. That's just my opinion of how I like to really fish them. Let's see. So many questions. Let's see. Fishing a tetanus shot for that. Okay, we do that one. Storm wiggleworts are great all year round. Isn't the rock crawler basically like a wigglewort, a version of that? I feel like that's what they made the rock crawler to be like.
I think it's a little different body style.
You think so?
Yeah.
I think the wart has a wider.
Yeah, that water really. I mean, it
Really
really
helps.
goes. I mean, it's got a lot of action.
Oh, it
a
is.
ton of action. That's what I've found out.
What do you all as far as the wide hunt versus the more of a compact?
Wintertime, I
Winter.
want something that's tight.
Yeah.
I don't want a sweeping, east to west. I want something more north and south that's tight. When it warms up, yeah, you want something that's going to go
More erratic.
more erratic, right? More like wounded or something like that.
We got Brooke Denise. Oh, I got a poll in the way. Brookie Denise. Doc is my favorite. Yeah, everyone loves Doc. We are going to be selling plushies of him soon, by the way. You can get them at the front. Please have him back and more often. He's always on the road. I mean, he just got back from Canada. I think he's leaving next week. You're going to Tennessee, Shane. I mean, my goodness.
Traveling, got to catch some fish.
But yeah, so we're in our new studio now, and it's not freezing outside. So we're going to try to do this once a month until it gets below freezing. So we'll be back here once a month at least, and hopefully Doc will be able to join us each time, and anyone who wants to join us. We got plenty of mics. What's this next one? Let's see. Juniata. Jeffrey David Spencer. Juliata is a solid place to get a 5+. Absolutely. That's a really, really cool place. I wish the walls up there are wonky, though, with the spawn, aren't they? Like when you're allowed to actually fish for smallmouth.
Yeah,
They lifted that?
they lifted that. That's
Okay.
probably been, I don't know how many years now,
Been a while.
7 or 8 years
Yeah.
now, I think.
Let's see, Brian Peeler. Main stem. Yeah, main stem doesn't get the same love. I just also think it's just there's parts that I don't know how much pressure it actually gets because the South Fork has just always been just so freaking good. And I think it's also just a testament to like the main stem coming back because I grew up in Loudoun County right over 7, so I fished the main stem a lot growing up, and it sucked until 3 years ago where it just wasn't trash. Like you could go out there and catch a decent one, and now you're starting to see some size back, which is, knock on wood, that's really, really awesome. Let's see, do I have? Okay, sorry. Yeah, I cannot pronounce that. B. Callis Jr.? I hope I got that right. There we go. How much lipless are you throwing? The most money I ever won in a tournament was on lipless, and I could probably do an hour lecture on lipless baits, but to say I do throw it a lot. Not as much for smallmouth, though. This is the only one that got into my square bill box. I don't know why. This is I'm not going to throw it. But anyway, it's a one knocker. This is the Booyah one knocker. This is the stuff that you can buy off of eBay, and I think it makes the most difference is buying different ones. I have silenced ones that are not made anymore, and you can hear with this one that really, that dull noise, and no two are alike with these lipless. I think this is a bait where the sound is that freaking important, whether it's just the little BBs, brass BBs, like I could go down a rabbit hole with that, but if you like lipless fishing, I highly suggest you get a quick change clip, just so you don't have to have 30 lipless rods and you can quickly flip out your color and your sound and just make little adjustments there. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts about the whole lipless thing.
Well, I tend to use the lipless, I guess, a little earlier in, more than probably the earlier spring, maybe. I tend, but I mean, obviously it's, as far as I'm concerned, it's all through the summer bait. But once you get up around 70-something degrees, suddenly you go from these fish being real aggressive. As typically as the water warms, the fish tend to get more aggressive with the warming to a certain point. Whether that's 72 or whatever, and then they just kind of boom. That's when you find yourself needing to go to a jig or big worm or something like that because they're not really looking to be chasing and looking for that reaction, going after that reaction bite.
Yeah.
That's
That's
but
when
that's
you bring
always
out
a
the
hard
top,
call.
Top water bait. I mean,
Yeah.
You
think
get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and you're on the river at 3:30 and you're throwing a buzz bait till 8 o'clock and you're loading the boat up and going home.
Yeah.
And that lipless bite, it really is. One key factor is like, can you fish it? So, could I fish it in the summer on the tidal Potomac? I don't think you could get it through like some of that grass. I know like on some lakes, like where they have like white bass and striper, you can still throw them out there for them. But it really is also like cover dependent because usually it is a grass bite, and if it gets too thick, you really can't use it successfully. And a lot of people have issues with them throwing them. You throwing fish on them. I kind of feel like I figured that out to where you got to get thick hooks, and you are not playing them. It's you hook them and it's you're winching, because what happens is when they jump, the key is to drag them across the surface. I have a medium heavy rod and I have a winch reel for these, and you're just cranking on them because as long as you keep pressure, they can't throw it. If you just try to do this where you like lock up like a crankbait and they get to be able to just throw this back and forth like that, I'm a miracle I didn't hook myself. That's when that actually will happen, and they'll chuck that. And then another thing is like smallmouth versus largemouth. I will say that like a largemouth won't throw these much as a smallie. A smallie, I've tried these up at like Cayuga. Yeah, because they'll hit that hook and then immediately jump, whereas I think a largemouth will wallow a little bit more. And I think that makes a big difference because that smallie hitting straight up into the air has a way easier time chucking that thing back at your face.
Yeah, and when the water's warmer too, those fish just seem to jump, come
right
like
up.
missiles out of the water.
Yeah.
In reference to, I tell you, and on the Susquehanna, this is gold too, and that's storm makes this the Arashi lipless. That is a great bait on Susquehanna, fishing the ledges, just coming across, kind of yo-yoing it across them ledges. That's sometimes that's a killer. And it's a great bite. And if you'll notice the hooks on that, just what Thomas was talking about, the standard hooks on that Arashi is just what you're talking about. You don't have to worry about changing them out. Versus if you look at, the old standard rattle trap. I mean, look at the difference in the hooks there. I mean, of course, that is a little smaller than Arashi, but if you'll see this, that Arashi lipless has really a thick hook.
Yeah, and that's important because I mean, if you can even you can feel that push on this one.
Oh yeah,
and then you
different.
can feel how much it flexes. These are double strength, and I use this with braid, and you can feel like they don't flex out. And so if you're gonna lean on them harder, and I'm probably on the spectrum when it comes to treble hooks. I think it really makes a difference. If you are gonna use heavier stuff, you gotta get double strength hooks to when you lean, they're not gonna bow out. Aaron Martin jerkbait hooks that are super soft and sticky, that's not a problem on a jerkbait setup because it's going to give to them. But if you lock up to them with a heavy gear on what I call a really soft treble hook, that hook will flex a little bit, and when it flexes a little bit, it'll pop out.
Yeah, I bet that one is.
Yep, and this was on straight braid, and these flexed out because I did not switch out. These are Aaron Martin's jerkbait treble hooks, and they just bow out on you. Yep. And so it's just something to keep in mind that you can throw heavier stuff with these baits, especially these are grass. This is like what we're talking about here. I don't know if you guys can see it. These are my man's crankbaits, my -1s, and these are the old ones that I haven't switched out the treble hooks. That one I was fishing 2 weekends ago during a kayak tournament, and also the Antietam Bassmasters on a boat tournament. Those are double X. I think they're 2 times. Yeah, they're 2 times strength Mustang triple grips. Those you can throw on straight braid and winch, and they won't bend out. That's needed when you're fishing that grass and there's 3 to 4 pound largemouth. You hook and winch, and you won't lose them. If you just try to hold and let them wallow there, every time they jump, you're going to run the risk of something bad happening. Anyway, yeah, I think I could go down too much of a rabbit hole with all that stuff. We got Everett again. Let's see. Props to Mr. Jared for his bait presentation skills. Absolutely. We got Jeffrey. What brand buzzbait is a must-have tied on? Ooh, I don't throw a lot of buzzbait, sadly. I really need to get back into that. The Whopper Plopper.
Yeah, it's taken over. The Whopper Plopper has taken over. I mean,
yes, clacker.
Yeah,
that's it.
I make my own.
Is it buoy? I think the buzz baits with the clackers definitely makes a difference. And You know, I think too with the buzzbait, you know, you got to kind of wear them in a little bit. You know, hold them out the window going to the river. Let's break them in just a little bit. You know, I think that helps.
But Jeff said he makes his own. So
I make my own buzz baits majority of the time. It's not the what I'll call more elongated blades. They stand up taller if you're looking at the buzz bait long ways. They stand up taller, but they're narrower this way. And I'll put them back to back, couple beads in between. So it is a double bladed buzz bait. And I prefer just a straight white skirt.
What do you think about double versus single? That debate. Blade.
For my style buzz bait, it's double all the way. But again, my blades are pretty different in profile than what you would normally see. Yeah.
What size you throw? I mean, you throw 1/8 or quarter or what?
Quarter. Yeah. Quarter ounce.
Or soft plastic.
Yeah, skirt. White skirt.
That's people don't do that
Tried.
anymore.
Yeah, but it's
I throw the toad a lot on.
You throw toad?
Yeah.
I had Chaz on who fishes he fished the Bass Opens and he now is in the late 70s. He said the biggest thing is like how many docks you're fishing, because he says he still throws a skirt around because he lives on the James River. He still throws a skirt most of the time, except when he goes down to the Carolinas and he's around a lot of docks. And then he switches to plastic because he said it just skips so much better to get him up under those docks.
Oh yeah, if you're skipping.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. Color-wise, how important is that to adjust that with a buzzbait, or can you just keep one color and have success?
I think straight white or white and chartreuse.
Yeah.
White and chartreuse.
And I like to have a black one. I think you take a black, a white, and a white chartreuse. Those three is all you'd ever need. I mean, that covers it all.
And you can use that in I just cut this off my rod because I was pre-fishing for the Shenandoah. This is the balling out jig head. You can buy these pretty much anywhere online, but it's perfect for a power Ned rig. This is a 1/2 ounce, but I have a 3/8, and they go even smaller. But the point is, you can fish a Ned rig on 14-pound test and throw it like a jig. But I was using a June bug color Ned rig in gin clear water. I don't know why. It makes no sense, but that darker color on the Shenandoah works. I think it's the same thing with that. Like, it mimics something that they're eating. And I think it's weird because, again, Bassmaster tells you clear water has to be a clear bait or like more natural, but that is natural to whatever they're eating down there. Yeah, Mad Toms or something.
Probably looks like a Helgermite.
Or a Helgermite, right?
Let's see that.
That did not slide. That's balling out jig head. Let's see, that's a good one. Let's keep scrolling. We got there. And guys, please hit that like button. It really helps us out in the algorithm. Let's see, perfect. Here we go. We got Chris in the house. What type of retrieve do you use normally? Let's say for summer bass on the Doa, and I'm assuming crankbait. So does everyone want to go with that? Mm-hmm. I'll go first. I had a mentor in high school fishing, and he said, like, you need to be medicated because you just don't let the bait hit the water. And he put a crankbait in my hand. He said, I want you to close your eyes and count every time it hits the ground. And he called it counting rocks. And that really conditioned me to, when you throw a crankbait, and this is more like what I do on lakes, is go to the speed where you can just feel it hit every time. And I think why you do that is when it hits, it has a chance to bounce off. You don't get snagged as much. And I picture those fish are sharking it, and they're right there. And this is the same thing with a swim bait. And when it hits, they're right there, and they just run into it. I know burning works a lot, but I've just never had as much success with that as when I cast it out there and I just feel it hit every single piece of cover. I'm not trying to just blow through it. But that's kind of what's worked for me.
Yeah, and I'm the same way. I mean, I don't burn a crankbait. I pretty much let them, do what they want to do. Bump in the bottom. And they just, I think, I don't know, like Thomas said, they just come up and, when it bumps at the bottom and it floats back up, I think that's when they hit it, when it's not, going side to side or whatever. I just think when it floats back up, they're right there ready to ambush it.
Mm-hmm.
And I will, especially on the Doa, I will take these smaller crankbaits, and once I hit bottom, and like you say, it's almost like you're counting rocks, and you get it down and then slow it down. Especially with this color right here, and it's proven this thing's wore out. I will actually stop this crankbait. When it starts making contact, I'll pause it. Just like pausing a jerk bait. And then I'll start it again.
I like that.
And numerous times, you will get that reaction bite just from that pause. When you start it again, they're on it.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I think that I'll definitely like to stay in contact with the bottom, but I don't think, I think just bumping it is the best. I mean, I think, if you get in there, you got something like this and you're just dredging the bottom, that's not natural. I mean, if you're just digging the ditch, that's not going to be, that natural. So I think you got to, keep it as natural as you can. And I think just like you are talking about, just, bumping that bottom, staying in contact with it is the way to go. And
when it's on the bottom, most of the time you're going to be bringing up grass or whatever.
Yeah.
Some kind of trash. And if you do slow it down a little bit, like Jeff said, when it bumps and comes up a little bit, floats.
And I think that's important too. It's just like I think the erratic. A lot of times that'll be the difference in you catching the fish, getting the bite or not, and that would be using the erratic. Wind it fast just a couple minutes, and let it pause, and and
you got to
down.
try different things.
Yeah, you got to let the fish tell you. Let the fish tell you.
You want to slow it down.
All right, you just want a gift card. Brian Peeler, you just want a gift card. Says, I'll buy you a beer. Does Jared have a preferred routine to keep his hands so presentable, or is it just fish slime? He's a hand model. Yeah, Brian, you want. I don't know what I can give you, but you just want
like
something.
A shark. Oh, look at it.
There you go.
His backup career.
Savannah.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, Chris, I think I'm glad you said the Shenandoah because it depends on where you're at. I mean, I like worming a crankbait too if I'm on like a muddy bottom lake or something like that where you feel it and you just pull a little bit and stop, pull a little bit, stop. But if you're on like a rock thing where you're just hitting something every time, I won't do that as much because I'm worried that I'm gonna actually like run it into something and snag. So I like to be a little bit more low and slow versus grass where my thing with grass is as soon as I feel something, I'm giving it some kind of action to pop it free. Yep. So it really depends on where you are. And then this is important too. I was throwing a crankbait today, and the guys that were out with me said, I look like I'm really burning it fast. I wasn't. I was fishing upstream, and I had to crank as fast as I could to keep up with the current. So that's kind of important too, is to know the situation. You might actually look like you're burning it, but if you're yucking it upstream and it's ripping, you're just trying to keep up with that bait as it goes down.
Because if you're not, it's pretty well just under the surface. I mean, you got to keep it.
And another thing we hadn't really talked about, that's wood. I mean, think about a square bill through the wood. I mean, that's sometimes that's money. I mean, and of course, coming through the wood, you feel it, you hit, pause it, let it rise up a little bit. And that, you're going to lose some crankbaits, but I think you can't really be afraid to throw it in the thick.
Well,
that's
it.
where
you
got to.
And you got so many grass beds up there, you just gotta.
You gotta throw it in
you
there
gotta
sometimes.
I mean,
you're gonna lose some, but sometimes you get it.
But you kind of everybody knows Susquehanna. Mostly 2, 3, 4 foot, but get it if you throw into the grass bed, or you can see them. That's a whole lot easier. But when they're under the water, that's when they're hard to see. But you just use your rod tip. I mean, keep your rod up and slow it down. I mean,
and know your setup too. I mean, if I'm throwing my Lake Kevin Van Dam setup with a slow reel, 12-pound test, getting it down deep, you're not going to just be loading up into everything you feel because you're going to bog those hooks into everything. And that's why if you've seen the Bassmasters or Kevin Van Dam, he almost has this weird pause before he leans into him because he broke free from something, but he's not setting the hook into it because if he did, he'd lose his bait. So he's letting that thing react first and feeling to see if it's there before he loads up. If you're fishing something on 15-pounder like straight braid, you can be a little bit more aggressive with your stuff because I don't lose these on the title because I'm fishing such heavy stuff. I'll just bend the hook out and I'll get the bait back. I can't do that if I'm throwing my super light popcorn setup with 10-pound test fluorocarbon. You got to be a little bit more ginger with it. So know your stuff.
I tell you, Jeff brought up a good point, and that's something I learned from him fishing up on Susquehanna. You really use your rod in crankbait fishing, and that's where I find myself not really doing that. It's more, just casting
and
wide.
you gotta
And
stay
Jeff said,
focused.
"Man, get
I
that
mean,
rod up. You're
right.
you're going too deep or whatever. Get that rod tip up. Keep it up." And he does that, and that's why like I said, he'd be catching them left and right. And here I'm fishing pretty much the same thing right there beside him, but he knows how to use. He was using that rod, and that's something I've picked up on. People don't necessarily think about. If you don't really fish a lot of crankbait.
The rod is so important. Like, you gotta let the rod do the work for you. Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that.
That's your friend right there. Is that Katie's friend? She's
Katie's
asking
friend.
what does it say?
Here we go.
Yeah, what is her
Alright.
favorite? What is
Katie,
a bucket?
Where is a bucket list fishing location for each of you? I think you've already probably fished them all, right?
I know where you're
Well,
at.
my bucket list place is. I would like to go up in Michigan and do some fishing. A place I've never been. I'm talking about, somewhere I've never been. I would like to go up and fish up in Michigan. Somewhere, what's the bay up there? The
Sturgeon Bay.
Sturgeon Bay. I like to
That'd
go
be
up there
cool.
sometime just to, or go up to Canada and fish some of those big smallmouth lakes
Like
up
Rainy
there.
Lake and all those
Yeah.
places.
Yeah, Rainy.
That'd be fun.
I'd like to do that sometime.
Where do you think mine's at?
Well, I was thinking Erie, but I mean,
I liked, Erie and Ontario, which we fished. But,
yeah,
I'd like to try like Thousand Islands.
yeah. I mean, I fished the St.
I've
Lawrence one
never-
time, but I had a bad experience. We had a lot of wind, but I'm definitely going back. I want to get back up there.
That's a
Yeah,
place that's on my list
Yeah.
for some quality fish.
I've always wanted to fish Lake Havasu because I want to fish in a desert and to just be able to get out there and also fish Clear Lake. That place has always had giants. It's more of like a historical thing. It's not as good now, but just to be there would be kind of cool. If I wasn't afraid I was going to get shot by a drug cartel, Lake Falcon is still pumping out 10, 15 pounders. It's on the Mexican-Texas border. Why Mexican, California? Mexican-Texas border. That would be a really cool place. Smallmouth wise, probably Mille Lacs, honestly, up in Minnesota. That would be a lot of. I would love actually just to go to Minnesota and just pick a lake, like not even know where.
Yeah, I don't think you'd go wrong.
Yeah,
up there.
like get a hotel for a week and every day hit a
every
new
day
lake.
hit a different.
Yeah, that would be.
That'd be fun.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love to. That's definitely a bucket
Yeah,
list.
because exploring new places is so fun to me. Have you ever experienced a place that you went, like when you went down to Tennessee, like you just go somewhere else, like, oh, I'm going to go to, Cayuga or whatever, but then it's like, I'm going to actually pull over and go here.
Well, kind of. I mean, I've been, fishing Kentucky Lake and say, well, I think I'm going to go down to Pickwick or go up to Wheeler, Jeff was down at
South Holston.
Is it South Holston and Watauga.
Watauga.
Those are great lakes. I'd love to go back down there sometime.
South Holston in the Virginia-Tennessee border?
Yeah, and
Really?
and Lake
Yeah, I
Watauga.
got a cousin
That Watauga is awesome.
Yeah,
lake. I mean,
Watauga's in the mountains. It's a beautiful, clear
lake.
reservoir, and there's some big smallmouth in there.
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
And just
big
beautiful,
largemouth.
beautiful territory.
But we're
beautiful
night fishing.
in the mountains,
Black
in
Lake.
the mountains, and
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I've done some of that where I just kind of bounce around some, but it's I don't get. I hope to do more of that coming up, but I mean, because work, I don't get to, I have to kind of pick and choose when I can do things now, but
We need
that'll
a
change.
countdown clock for when you retire. We'll just keep
right.
that at Jake's with
That's
every
right.
day
We'll
ticking
keep it.
down.
It's counting down now.
It's counting down.
Yeah.
But I mean, I love fishing, and just like all y'all, and I think fishing new places is
See, that
fun.
one guy grew up fishing.
New River. I want to go
St.
back to the
St.
New
Clair.
River. I can't wait to get back down New River. Jared and I was talking about going down there and camping for a couple nights and fishing New River.
I want to
couple
do that.
spots.
And I'm actually blessed. Huge shout out to Trey at Innovative Sportsman. He got me up with a Torpedo. I think it's it's the smaller version, guys. I'm terrible with acronyms. And that really opened my eyes to like all the places I want to explore now. Conacajig Creek, Antietam, Monocacy, just places like you probably don't want to put a jet boat always, but you can just throw sneak a kayak in there. And also going past Paw Paw on the Upper Potomac and places like there's just so many cool little places around here that are sneaky that you could probably catch some really cool sized fish. Yeah,
and
there's
with
so many
your
places like that.
kayak with a motor now that you can, you're not
you can just
beating
go.
yourself to death trying to keep, paddling and keeping.
Oh my goodness, my calves were cramping. I told Jared like I had to go across Pohick Bay when I was doing the last tournament, but I was pedaling. And I'm not Lance Armstrong, and I was dying. And so this was a blessing to get a motor where I can just be fat and lazy finally. Lake Winnipesaukee. Okay, we've got Brandon Henry here. Lake Winnipesaukee. I have heard of that place, but I've never fished it before. That's interesting, huh? I said that'd be a blast. We got Katie said that like that would be a blast. And we got Olvi in Texas. Jared, what is that word?
Texas has big bass.
Not just me. Fishing the Desert would be sick. Especially they also have world record sunfish there at Lake Havasu that are over, I think they're 15 pounds.
Wow.
The bluegill. They're massive. I'm actually going to pull that picture up because that's really, really cool. Here we go. Ooh, wrong one. What is everyone's favorite place to fish? Doc, you go first.
Well, that's a hard one, really. I love fishing Susquehanna River, but that's obviously not local. I love fishing Shenandoah River. So if you're talking about local to Winchester, I think, I'm, of course, a Shenandoah River guy. If you're talking about away from here, Susquehanna River, I just love fishing it. It's a beautiful river. It's, I just like the scenery of the river. It's a great fishery. So I'd have to
Full
say,
of fish. I mean, a lot of good fish.
a lot of
there.
quality
Here we go.
fish. So that's where I like.
That's Lake Havasu.
That'd be fun on a 4-pound line.
No.
No, like I would just look
Might
like
fit on a black stand.
yeah. I bet when those things turn broadside to you in 15
Oh my
feet of water,
gosh, yeah.
like that would just be absolutely a blast. So yeah, that's a bucket list fish. It's not just bass I want to catch. There are a lot of bucket list fish I actually want to get. I want to catch a tarpon on light line. That's a big one. Travis Eden said eventually he's going to get me on a fly on a carp. I want to see if I can actually get one of those. But apparently it's harder than a bonefish to do without a bow. Let's see.
Jeff, what's your
What's your favorite?
Local is Shenandoah. Anything, driving 4 hours or more, I'll say, is definitely Lake Erie.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's quality, quantity, and I'm talking smallmouth. Hands down for me is definitely Lake Erie, and then with Ontario being just up the road. And you're going to pick places where you've got confidence and you've had great success in the past, is what it boils down to. And me for Lake Erie, we've been going up there for a few years now. You learn something every time you go. You find new rock piles or ledges, or this bait works great over here but not over here. It's all that. So we've got I would say we've got Lake Erie area.
Oh, you got
some
that
sections
pretty tuned in.
We've got that tuned in where
That's so cool.
It becomes almost too easy.
And this year,
And that's your confidence
Yeah.
level going in. If you don't have that confidence level, a lot of times you'll struggle.
yeah. And I think with the warm winters now, I mean, look how much warmer it was.
And and the
Just
bites
from-
earlier.
yeah.
I mean, just look at the fishing trips we just come off of.
Yeah.
Speaking up there, I mean,
Oh,
we all
we
had
were up there, second week of
second week of April and third week.
Normally
of
we would go the second week of May.
May.
So it's a
And
month
we
earlier.
all had great trips. I mean, we caught a bunch of big fish, and
But you learn over the years how to gauge when it's go time.
I go by water temperature.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, when it's, I'm going to say 42, maybe even 40.
Yeah.
I mean, I think those big girls come in first. I'm going to say 40 degrees, and what I've had this year going up north on Lake Ontario, I think if it's another mild winter, I'm going to go the first week of April because I, might not catch 30, 40 fish.
But it's quality.
But you may have a chance to catch. I mean, my biggest up there is right at 7 pounds, and believe me, you got to go where they live, and when you do that, you got a chance to catch them big one.
That's like the last couple trips to Erie we just took.
Yeah.
You had a 7.
I had a 7-1 at Erie.
7-1, I had a 6.15.
And we had another 6.6, and
Yeah.
we had a 6.8 and a
Just
6.14.
numerous 5-pound fish.
Yeah, it's
Big fish. I mean, that time,
Yeah.
big old.
But it's that confidence level, and once you learn that body of water, you just bounce from waypoint to waypoint to waypoint. My screen is covered with waypoints.
That's so much fun,
Covered
guys.
with waypoints.
So, if you want to book a trip with them to go up to Erie, let's see. All right, scrolling up there. Okay, here we go. We talking crappie again? No, John. We were talking. Well, actually, we're talking about the shell crackers at Lake Havasu. They're just absolutely. Actually, I didn't. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I didn't even share my screen with you, so we're just looking at a photo and laughing. My apologies. Here, let me share that screen real quick. Come on. Entire screen. There we go. So I was showing like my dream is like Lake Havasu in Arizona, and one thing is like I want to catch some of these shell crackers. They're just sunfish, but they're just steroids. I think they don't look real, but to catch them on a 4-pound test look like absolute blast. So that's what we're talking about. Like those things look like I don't know. I would enjoy catching at least one of them just to say that I did. Let's see. Here we go. We got Scott again. Why do you think crankbait's so important in the post spawn? I would think a stressed fish would prefer a jig. I think it's because they're trying to feed.
Yeah, I think it's the feed up after after you go through that initial shock of the of coming off the bed, they just get real hungry again.
And
they're
you
just
cover
aggressive.
the water. I mean, you cover so much water with a crankbait.
This is dumbing down fishing real 101 stuff here. Do you go one hook or you go trebs? And really, any decision you go in fishing is these two because there's no other real hook that's out there. Is a treble hook or one hook. The problem with one hook here is you're going to get a lot of fish that'll push or slap out of bait. You're not going to get them with this. A fish that pushes or slaps at a treb bait, you have a higher percent chance of actually getting them. So I really think it comes down to when they're not feeding good, I want to throw something that has trebs because I have a higher chance of getting them to commit. So when it's super cold, like pre-spawn, bluebird days, I'm going to go with a jerkbait, a crankbait, something like that, because they might not want to eat, and this comes by and they just flail their gills at it to get it out of their face. You can catch them with this. If they do that to a chatterbait or a swim jig, you're not going to get them. And I know that for a fact. I'm not going to pull that rod out, but when I throw my swim jigs, I did an hour seminar on this. When they take the rod out of your hand with a swim jig, they're not hitting it well. They're just ramming it. When they knock slack into your line, that's when the swim jig bite is on because they're coming up behind it and inhaling it. So if I feel that they're smacking it hard, that means they're not taking the bait well. They like it, but they don't like it enough to open their mouth to it. So you go to something with treble hooks because if they want to smack at this thing, they're going to get a lot of metal in their face. I think that's one, I don't know, brain theory with all that stuff. Let's see. J.J. Spicer, Prototype Lure Company. Ooh, Jeffrey David Spicer. Lure Company. I get it now. I have no idea what that means. V? Oh, you know who you're talking to, right? I can't pronounce English at all. Murray River, that's a good one. Let's see, we got Go H2O. Hello from Cal. Dude, there we go. Doc's fans are everywhere. We're going to get some people coming in from Europe here soon. I'll be fishing for carp on fly this summer. Should be a doozy. I've heard that it's a lot of fun. They're like trash bonefish.
Aren't the cicadas supposed to come out?
Yep.
Yes.
And they
They've just been out. I mean, one of these tournaments, I heard that there was
Murray, I think.
Yeah, was it Murray or
was it Murray?
I don't know. I think it was one before that one, but. Oh yeah.
Logan, can y'all break down different line setups for different cranks, braid to leader, mono? Oh my God! All right, who wants to go first?
Well, I'm straight mono. I mean, I keep it simple. Like say 10-pound test on my bait casters, and I mean that's what I throw the crankbait on. I don't even go to 8. 8's on my spinning rods, and that's me.
Yeah. Again, I'm throwing 10 on a bait caster, 6 on a spinner rod, and that's for local waters. If I'm like you on the lower Potomac, and you're in some heavy grass, then yeah, the braid really comes into play.
And it's the size of fish. I mean, to be fair for the Shenandoah and the upper Potomac, there's not a lot of 5 and 7s, and I'm pretty sure. Would you throw 6-pound tests up at Lake Erie for your crankbait setups?
Oh
still?
yeah, all the
Really?
time.
Wow, you are a brave man. My God.
He is.
Oh,
Yeah.
all the
He
time.
does. He throws.
Oh my
All
God.
the time.
Specific brand line?
I have multiple jumbo spools. I don't even think they make it anymore. It's called Sigma.
Sigma still a
Way
thing?
back.
Huh.
Yeah, I think Shakespeare used to make it, but I just have this everything from 4 pound to I think it's 20 or 25 pound. Just boxes and boxes of jumbo spools. And that's the only mono that I throw.
Yeah. So again, since I'm on the spectrum of this stuff, the longer your cast is one variable to where if you're hooking them at the very end of the cast, I think going with braid or a braid to leader works. I know Jeff Little and Jake Harshman like going braid to fluoro when they're fishing the Susky, just because they're in a kayak. They fish fluorocarbon, but when they set the hook on them, their kayaks scoot forward. So they like to have that zero stretch to make sure they bury the trebs. If you're not out of a kayak, everything they said works out great. What I've seen with the kayak is you want less stretch when you're fishing that, because I saw it on Lake Anna. I had a 5.5 pound largemouth, and it was my old setup, and I did this, and my kayak I felt it scoot forward on it. It came straight up, and it spit. So you need to be able to get more force into that hook to make sure you get it buried, and you don't lock up. And this is where I think GoPros are good. You don't have to be a content creator to watch playback of how you are, but I can tell on a boat where I do this, and I hold it for a second, and I take a step back with my hips. I can't do that in a kayak. I'm just doing this, and I'm just holding it like I'm holding a tug toy with a dog. I had to break myself of that habit. Then when I'm in a kayak and I feel a fish, don't do this, but just start cranking to gain up the slack, especially on the Shenandoah when you're fishing upriver. You can't take a step back. You can't do anything. And so you have to get on that handle and catch up with them, because 9 times out of 10, it feels like those suckers come down, down at you, and you got nothing to do but and if you are anchored, it's a little bit easier. If you have a motor and you're kayaking, turn the motor off so you drift backwards so you can help get some of that slack. But don't keep going up current, because I think they usually are going straight down. Let's see. Well, I struggle with, let me see. I struggle with some of the names of the places and some of those last names. Yeah, some of these places are not good for people like me who can't speak English. Let's see, Fishing World. It's amazing. Your video is very good. You are successful. Okay, here, Brian Peeler. We probably won't see any periodical cicadas around here, but that doesn't mean the fish won't engage them when they present with options. Yeah, I know there are some parts of Virginia that are supposed to get it pretty hot and heavy, but not all parts of Virginia are going to get them hot and heavy. I think we finally did. We get caught up on all of our chats. That's amazing. Let's see. Y'all think? Here we go. Here's a couple I saved from earlier. Everett, I think you already won a gift card, but if not, you also want another gift card to Jake's Bait and Tackle. Let's see. Do you all like to use bigger crankbaits or smaller ones? I don't even think we talked about, like, in general for, let's say, the Shenandoah up in Potomac. What sizes do you all like to use?
Small to medium.
Small to medium?
Yeah, like I said, majority of the time throwing something like a 1.5, that size, maybe a 2.5 or
and going
mainly
smaller
1.5, that size.
Helps a lot. Like, and what's nice is because BFS caught on, it really helps us creek and smallmouth anglers out, because you're getting crankbaits that are tinier with longer bills. I remember when it's like, to get a crankbait with any depth, the bait was massive, and now I feel like you can get some really compact baits, but they'll still get pretty deep, which is really nice. And I need to try out some of those, Doc, that you had, because those look really, really, really good. Let's see, we did that one. Ooh, Ray Dalton. Just fish a Nico Helgermite or a tube for clear water. And when water rises or strained, use a spinnerbait or chatterbait, also topwater popper, all you need, game over. You say that, but I've done extremely well with the crankbaits. And again, I also said, like, I smoke them with a swim jig too, which if you've listened to that seminar I did, it's basically a skirted swim bait. That's how you fish these things. It's just like a swim bait. You just slowly reel it, and when it pops free, you're gonna get trucked with that. So that's a BSF crankbait. I think that is everything. I cannot believe we got through everything so quickly. No, Scott's not done with us yet. Scott, let's talk speed of reels. I'm doing too much talking. How about you three go?
Go ahead.
Speed, like, for crankbaits.
You know, I typically use a 7, 7.1 or 7, whatever, depending on the brand reel you're using. Majority of the time. I mean, I think, at least that one you can slow it down. Where if you're using a 5 or something like that, that's just my preference. I mean, some people say like using a 5 because it keeps them slow, and I grant it. Some people have a hard time keeping a faster speed reel. When you need to fish it slow, it's a little more trouble. But at least you got a little more, capability if you're using a faster reel, and slowing it down than a slower reel trying to come down the river, like you said. That's just my opinion. That's my preference. That's
it's so it depends. I think is the answer. Like, give us a scenario, because is it a cold front where I need to slow down because I got ADHD and I can't slow down a 7-point. My body won't let me. So I'll give myself a cute little 4.9. I can just crank on that all day, but it's still scooting. That's just me. But then also, I have a 7+ on here because today on the Shenandoah, that thing was ripping, and I had to keep up with it. So yeah, it depends on so many things scenario wise. Are you throwing a freaking, shovel? Well, if you throw that thing on a 9, you're going to be real tired. Like, you probably want something with a lower gear ratio. So, it really depends. And that's what's so cool about the crankbait is you can vary that stuff up to where you can make these things rip and burn, or you can slow them down, or you can jerk them. You can do a lot of things with them, and they're really, really versatile, and people don't fish them enough. They really don't. And it's hard, because I had a conversation with my friend about that. Now that you got swim baits, because I remember swimming a grub on the river, and now no one swims grubs. It's a little bitty, Kitex and stuff. And now you got the chatter baits and spinner baits and swim baits, and it's almost like you only have so many rods in 2 hands. Like, what do you pick to throw? And I feel like when that happens, you have baits that just fall out of. Remember, like the spinner bait, like dropped off for a couple of years on the pros, and then all of a sudden it came back. Like, it's just, I don't know. I feel like things go in cycles.
An interesting thing about the speed of a reel, too. I mean, and I'm sure y'all have all had it. You get a fish on, and darn thing's coming toward you, coming toward the boat. And I remember just this last trip. I mean, I said, I got a fish. It didn't feel like it was going to be very big. Then the thing gets at the boat, then you look, and it's a monster. And then suddenly he's gone the other way. So I think that's where
Yeah, no two. I mean, talking about smallmouth, no two are the same. Yeah. I mean, they're just. I mean, I've said it before. They're just a fish with an attitude, and it is just. I love catching them. I mean, there's no other fish. I mean, really, I don't care if I ever catch a largemouth again. Yeah. I really don't. I mean, smallmouth is. I've told it before, in these veins are smallmouth swimming. I mean, I bleed smallmouth, and it's just a fish that I go to bed thinking about them. I wake up thinking about them.
Yeah, I love smallmouth fish.
Well, let's finish off on this right here. Well, let's answer this one more question before I have this closing thought. This is a good one here. We got, and I'm not going to pronounce your name, and I apologize. I have something wrong with me. B. Callis Jr., B. Callis, I think. How often do you use a tube bait, and what conditions make it a better choice? That's our last question of the night.
Well, I'm a tube bait. I mean, I'm a tube bait person. I mean, I fish tubes more than I fish just about anything else, and that's year round.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's if I had one bait I had to pick, then I could only have one bait to go out to for the whole year, it would be a tube. And it would be a JW custom tube. And that's all, if I could have one bait and one
What
bait
conditions
only.
make it better, though?
Huh?
Are there better conditions for the tube? Or are there days that it work better, and what would that be?
I mean,
I think
to me, it's
confidence thing.
yeah, it's just confidence. It's more confidence than it is to me the weather, and that's just that's my confidence bait is the tube, and I'll fish it in lakes, rivers, wherever, largemouth or smallmouth. I mean, I've just got a lot of I'll fish it from Alabama to Canada. I mean,
Wow.
it's to me just it's my go-to bait.
It's weird because I've been blessed where I've gotten to talk to one or two people, and the tube versus Ned rig is like Cowboys versus Redskins. It's hard to find somebody that loves those baits equally. It's you either love the tube or Ned rig more. You do have exceptions, but they're cult followings for those two baits. It really is.
What y'all's?
Tube for me, January, February, March, and April. Then my whole game changes through the warmer months. Then I'll pick it back up again November, December. Unless during those warmer months we get rain, water rises, get some color to it, and I'm back on a tube or jig.
Yep.
If I'm hitting that bank, and the water's coming up and it's right, then I'm pitching a tube or pitching a jig in. But once that water comes back down and gets more clarity to it, then my whole game switches.
I'm pretty much the same way.
Yeah, I throw the bigger. So the only exception I have is I won a lot of money on Thursday nighters up on the Upper Potomac. On this thing right here, where'd it go? This is the Bitsy TRD.
Yep.
And this is in like July, hottest part of the day. I go with I think it's almost an 8-foot rod by Phoenix. It's a medium light action 8-foot. It's a salmon rod basically, but that's a rod that I've used before. And you can just chuck this a mile, and for some reason that super small profile when it's hot as hell, I don't know why, but I just outfished people that were throwing tubes and normal size Ned rigs. But besides that, I'm pretty much I'm a Ned rig guy more than a tube guy. And I think it's because I can take that and I feel more confident with that setup. But my bucket list item, so to speak, is to get more into tubes because Antietam Bassmasters, there's a lot of guys that throw tubes and just kick my ass all the time with it. So I really need to get the confidence with throwing the tube more and getting the bite. But we can't fish every bait. Let's see. I think that's a good. I think that's got everything there. So yeah, closing thoughts for everybody. Where do you think the next state record is going to come from smallmouth wise in Virginia, if you had to guess?
But right now it's New River, right?
Probably.
It's New River
Pound,
as of
I think
right
it's
now.
8 pound, 1.5 ounce.
Yeah, and I think one thing about the New River is you might not catch as many fish, but I think you got bigger fish down there. I don't know. I'd like to say it's going to come from somewhere up in here, but I don't. Then you got, like I said, you got South Holston Lake, places down there in the lower part of the state. You got some big old smallmouth.
I almost feel like it's going to come out of a river, though.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah, I think out of a river more than a lake. Well, I know down south, like Holston and places, they're pounded by tournaments.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Smith Mountain.
I think Smith could have one. I think Conowinga could have one lurking in there. I think, where's that other place? I think Moomaw might have one because that place has a lot of trout.
Oh, yeah.
And if you get some smallmouth that are trout eaters, like those things, I think that one old New River record way back when was in a trout portion, a really trouty area of the New. And that could work out too. Upper Potomac, I think, is going to crank out a high 7 or an 8 right now because it's just fishing so freaking good past the Brunswick area. I don't think it's going to get 8 plus 9, but I think that 7 to 8 range definitely. That's a hell of a smallmouth.
well,
That's a hell of a
the state
smallmouth.
record for West Virginia is out of the Upper Potomac, and it's 9.75.
Yeah.
That is a powerful.
That's a hell
I mean,
of
you
a
ain't
fish.
talking far off the world record.
No.
You know.
No.
But yeah, the Upper Potomac, man, is just there's some monster smallmouth.
It's really on right now.
It is
is.
on.
Now, are you talking about above Brunswick or below?
So right now it seems like it's Harper's Ferry down towards the Monocacy seems to be like on fire right now.
Landers down. The next ramp below
Yeah.
Brunswick.
Yeah, it's for some reason right now it's
Right
on
above
fire.
Point of
Point of
Rocks.
Rocks, yeah.
Jeff said he at New River Pro, yeah. Then Jeff Green said he's seen one. He caught one. He showed me it went 6.5 easily. And so I'm under the impression that you never catch the biggest. So if there's a 6.5 that you boated, that means there's probably a 7 swimming. So I don't know. Like if those fish are healthy, they probably have a couple more years of life that they can gain some weight. So I'm thinking we could see a 7. It's the Potomac's time to shine. I think this is its cycle, and I think the Shenandoah, knock on wood, we don't have any major fish kills. I think the Shenandoah will be there in 3 years, 4 years.
Yeah.
You'll start seeing
Coming
those
back,
that weight.
yeah, definitely, I think.
Yeah. So guys, we've been here almost 2 hours. It's midnight, basically where we're at, or it feels like it, even though it's 10. I've been on the water all day. I'm tired from fishing. Yeah, Doc, do you got anything else you want to add?
No, I just want Thomas. Want to thank you for coming down to Jake's tonight live with the show, Fishing the DMV. I love the show. It's always a pleasure when you
call 'em.
invite me on, and just want to thank you. Thank you for all your hard work. Thank Jake's Bait and Tackle for putting this on. Allowing us to be here tonight, and most of all, thank you to our viewers. Thank you all for tuning in and all the wonderful questions. And this is just always great to get together and talk fishing.
Yeah, it is. And guys, we will be back here shortly. Probably in a month, we'll be back here in June to give you like those hot water things. And we will probably have to have a topwater bait show. Honestly, we'll be into topwater season, which is always an absolute blast. We'll keep you posted on how the tournaments go this weekend. As always, please, if you could, subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out in the algorithm. Also, go check us out on Patreon. If it wasn't really for Patreon, I couldn't be pumping out 4 to 5 episodes a week like a madman. It's amazing that we've had so many people join Patreon. Please check it out if you want to. We're 15 away from our next major milestone. And we will see you next time on Fishing the DMV. Bye.
You're listening to Fishing the DMV with your hosts, Thomas Ahrens and Jared Mounts. Fishing the DMV is brought to you by Jake's Bait and Tackle, located in Winchester, Virginia.
If that doesn't get you jacked up, I don't know what will.